Welcome to another episode of What's the Hype podcast.
Building and an interception, and you're not down by 10 anymore. Andre Hal, his second interception.
To get you the information that you need to start your own business and do your own thing.
And I felt like it gave me a good perspective.
I was not the first person to go through what I went through.
So talk about your individual and team success during your time at Bethune-Cookman.
So the team success, like I said, it was I'm going to back up. I'm going to talk about individual first because this kind of goes back to what I went through in high school. So remember in high school, I say, I only got like 31 targets. I did as much as I could with what I got. The coach who called me says, we want you. We're going to, we're doing these things with the offense, blah, blah, blah. So I get there, right? And I see they're running some offense called the Wyatt Bone. I'm like, what is this? And it's for those who don't know, Wyatt Bone is basically a wishbone offense. So it was like, these options and veers and a lot of motions and everything. So I was playing on the outside and I was like, I thought we were going to be in shotgun. I thought we were going to throw the pigskin, and offense didn't change. So I pretty much got a different version of what I already went through in high school. Mm-hmm. So now, we're not throwing the ball a lot that much. And so I think my freshman year, I think I played a lot on offense, but, I think I didn't get any targets. I think I started the year off as a kick returner my freshman year, returned a couple kicks. And sophomore year, I think I had it was like 10 catches, a touchdown. My junior year, which was my best year, I think I had probably 15, 16 catches, probably 300 some yards and like 3 or 4 touchdowns. And then my senior year, which I can talk about a little bit later too, is I had like maybe 5 or 6 catches. So during that time period individually, I was still had a level of frustration because I felt like, if I was in the right system, I probably could have developed more. So I probably could have got more looks. I probably could have made more noise from a statistic standpoint. And I had that thought cross my mind of transferring after my sophomore year because, every wide receiver wants the ball. Mm-hmm. And I just felt like, for me personally, even to this day, I still feel like, the time I did in high school, the time I did in college, I felt like I never really reached the potential that I could have had or achieved playing wide receiver because I was never in a pass-happy offense. And kind of going back to high school, I graduated 2001. 2002, they implemented the spread offense in my high school, and they were throwing for days. And so when I went back to the high school game, I'm like, if we would have did this, we would still even been better. Mm-hmm. And then one thing I forgot to mention, I meant to mention this too. When I was in high school, my junior year, so this was 1999, we had the number 4 ranked team in the nation. So we were behind De La Salle in California, Miami Northwestern, and Robert E. Lee in Texas. So we were number 4 like that year.
Yeah, that's that. Just my school. Just want to
yeah. And so from that standpoint, that's kind of, what I came out of in high school. But college, individual success wasn't as much as I would have liked or I wish it would have been, but it was just kind of the cards that the hand that I was dealt. But from a team aspect, like I said, those 02 and 03 teams were good. My freshman year, I think we were still young. We had some older players who had played a couple years. And keep in mind, if you know about that time period, Coach Wyatt was new to Cookman in terms of being a head coach in '98. Mm-hmm. So he was still building up to that 02 and 03 team. And then 04, I think we had a decent team. It wasn't as good as 02 and 03, not as much talent as those two teams. But overall, I mean, it was just fun, playing in different classics. We started playing a lot more SWAC schools during that time period. That, if you look back, that's actually the biggest attendances of the Florida Classic. That's when we broke all the records. Mm-hmm. So like in 02, I think we had 70,000. In 03, which I think is still the biggest number, we had 74,000. And that was just inside the stadium. We had, probably another 40,000, 50,000 outside. So those games were real huge, for us. And it was definitely fun, and played with a lot of great great guys. I mean, not looking back, I played with what, 3 Pro Bowlers?
Listen,
or 2 Pro Bowlers.
Yeah, we're going to get into that. But Dre, just HBCU, Dre, we were, as he mentioned, the classic 70,000+ players, 70,000+ fans coming to a game. Like, I know you played at Vandy. I don't know what was your biggest crowd, but HBCU, bro. It was a, you know, in the years that I was there, we averaged probably about 65,000 somewhere up in there, you know. But they had 70,000+ in the stadiums for those games. So it was, you know, again, even that was a selling point to recruit some of the guys who could have possibly went to a bigger, not necessarily a D1 school, but not necessarily a bigger crowd, because the Florida Classic for itself was a selling point for, you know, a lot of the young guys to go and be able to play in front of that crowd in your home state.
Yeah, so, I mean, it was huge. I mean, the beautiful thing about it, man, you look up in the stands, and it was like, you know, all brown faces.
Yes.
I mean, it was deep, and there was no violence, no issues, or anything like that. Everyone was there for the right reasons. Mm-hmm. And during those times, this was during the time when FAMU was trying to make the jump to 1A, mm-hmm. And a lot of those years, that game was determining who won the MEAC. So you were playing for something during that time too, and FAM had some talent too during that time as well.
No question, no question. So as you mentioned, you were going to start talking about some of the guys you played with. So when you talk about a Rashean Mathis, Nick Collins, Eric Weems, so all of them, just again, you're not mentioning Alan Suba, who also went pro, and Steve Baggs, who also went pro, but these guys were all pro at one point in their career. Nick Collins has been on the ballot for Hall of Famer. If it wasn't for his injury, no question, he would have been a surefire Hall of Famer. And he still may get the opportunity to go, because in a short amount of time that he played, Super Bowl champion, touchdown in the Super Bowl, interceptions leader, all that. Did you see that coming? Again, of course, Rashean's 14, 6, you said 10 and 14 interceptions, but you know, did you see that coming with, you know, again, Eric Weems, who I was able to play 2 years with? Did you see that coming, you know, with those guys?
Well, yeah, so I'm going to go one by one, because each one has their own different story. So Rashean, man, I'm going to start with Rashean first. So I get there in 2001. He's a junior when I'm coming in as a freshman. So the year before, he had 10 picks. And his freshman year, he had 4 picks. So his first year, he played corner, and then he got 4 picks. They moved him to safety, and he got 10 picks. And I remember reading about him when I was in high school. So when I get there, I see him, and I'm like, I'm like, yeah, this guy, he's good. But, you know, I'm freshman. I'm like, all right, I'm going to try him. So, like, I remember for 2-a-days, you know, they want, you know, you get one-on-ones going. Mm-hmm. So I jumped to the front of the line. Like, I'm jumping in front of seniors and everything. I'm like, I want this. So I get in front of him. I never forget. I think we caught like a slant play or whatever. So normally, Jeff, you probably know, well, both of you know, normally playing wide receiver, if a defensive back is on you and you run that slant route and you get them to turn their shoulders the opposite way, mm-hmm. like if you're going to the right, you get them to open up to the side, to the left, to your left, you got them beat, like, because they're out of position. So I run that slant to him, I plant, and he turns his shoulders, and I look back at the ball, and I'm about to catch it, and then I just see a hand come by, and he just knocks it down. I'm like, how do you do that? So this dude, he turned the wrong way, had quick twitch muscles, and came back and cut in front of the ball to knock it down. I've never seen that before.
Wow.
At least, you know, for me, you know, personally. So when he made that play on me, I was like, yeah, this dude he's legit, and he was fast. He had endurance. Whenever we ran those sprints, I never seen him like, you know, like doubled over, like he can't breathe or complaining. He just ate those sprints. Like he didn't even look tired. And I remember he had this tattoo on his forearm when I got there. He had a tattoo of a football, and it had NFL on it, and it said, "The game chose me." Wow. And I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's true. That's true. So with Rashean, day one, I saw that. Because I mean, there was even talk, and you don't hear this at a HBCU, let alone 1AA. But there was legitimate talk of him skipping his senior year to go pro, which would have been the 2002 draft. But he decided, you know, people, they were like, just might as well go back. Because at that time, he had, 4 picks, 10, so 14. He already had 18 picks in 3 years. And so they were like, you know, go ahead and go back. But he was seriously considering skipping his senior year. You hear that at the big schools, but not at Bethune-Cookman.
Right.
So he balled out, man. And I tell one quick story about Rashean. Another time I knew he was cut from a different cloth. We were playing. This was 02. We were playing down in South Florida against FIU, or no FAU, no FIU. I'm sorry, FIU. And he caught a punt. And when he caught the punt, I guess he didn't see the guy coming down from his blind side, and the guy nailed him. Bam! I mean, he ran through Rashean, ran through him. Rashean gets up, his thumb, this is pointing back this way.
Whoa.
And he just kind of looking at it, and he just walks off the field. And then I saw it, I was like, yeah, that's dislocated, broke, or whatever. And so he just points to the trainer, he's pointing to his thumb, and then he looks away, they pop it back in place, they take his glove off, they tape it. No, they kept his glove on. They popped it back in place, they taped it up. Next series, he goes out and gets a pick, takes it back like 40 yards. Like it wasn't even like he wasn't grimacing. He wasn't like, oh my God, my hand hurt, coach, I don't want to go in. He just like tape it up, went back out there, got a pick. So like for him, I knew he was cut from a different cloth. And then if I got my facts straight, he was the second DB taken behind Troy Polamalu during that draft, or the second safety. Mm-hmm. So that lets you kind of know what kind of place he was in. So Nick Collins came in the year I did, but he was a prop 48, so he didn't play in 01. So he came in 02, and he in the beginning of the first half of the season, we knew him as like he was like like our best special teamer. Like on kickoff, he would be the first one running down, and he would just like be running through people. But it wasn't to the point where we're like, oh, he's going to the NFL. So he was playing. Then second half of that year, I think there was an issue with the starter, had some off the field stuff, so they put him in, and he started he started the second half of the year. So that's 02. 03, he's starting, he's doing his thing, he's playing. 04, he's starting doing his thing, he's playing. There wasn't really a time for me personally, and this is just purely my recollection of it. There wasn't a time where I looked at Nick and I was like, yes, he's going to be the surefire draft pick. Yes, he's going to be in the Packer Hall of Fame. Yes, he's going to be a Hall of Fame potential. I mean, he was talented. He was fast. He could catch. He could hit. But I was like, you got to be Sheen. I didn't at the time. I didn't put him in the same league as Sheen. Sheen was different in college. It wasn't until his pro day of 05 when he ran a 4.3 on grass and he slipped at the start. That's when I was like, maybe there's something there. Maybe it would be a late round draft pick. But when he got picked, because keep in mind, Sheen got picked. He was the first pick he was like top 5 pick of the second round. And I think Nick was maybe the first pick of the second round, the top 5 of the second round. So when Nick got picked that high, I was like, oh man, what did I miss? And I was like, I played with him. Like, what did I miss? And then when he got to Green Bay, I think he got better in the NFL. Than he was in college. No question. So he just, I think his growth trajectory was just had a steep incline. And if it wasn't for his injury, I think he would be a surefire Hall of Famer.
Quick question. One of the guys who was a scout with the Texans when I was was there with them. He told me that Tampa didn't draft him because they didn't think he was smart enough to pick up the defense. And what they saw when he went to Green Bay, a more complicated defense, because Tampa ran to Tampa too, so it wasn't really that complex. But again, just HBCU, they didn't see a whole lot from him. Right. Whatever happened in Green Bay, they couldn't have guessed that in a million years. Yeah,
I mean, it was. I think a lot of us who played with him, I think if we were honest with ourselves, we did not see that coming. The way he balled out that he did. I think he played 7 years in the league. Did not see it coming. Very, very happy for him. I mean, he's in a Packer Hall of Fame, and Charles Woodson inducted him. So, I mean, I didn't see that coming at all. But he was definitely a good player in college. And then Eric Weems, the thing I liked about Eric, man, he had that dog fight in him from day one. And he started at Cookman the day he stepped on the campus. Like day one, when we did our first drills, he was they call it the A-back. He was A-back position. And the thing I liked about Eric was that he never got tired. Mm-hmm. Like whenever we ran sprints and because the A-back, they did the most running on the offense. And he would always catch a pitch, run about 50 yards, come back, and he just never got tired. And that's what I always liked about him. And his first college game, he had 4 touchdowns when he played in the first game.
Yeah.
So yeah, he was definitely a baller. Now I would say with him, I didn't see NFL either. Even though he was good, I thought the size would kind of get him, and the fact that we're playing in this kind of gimmick offense. And he really didn't return kicks or punts until his senior year. And because I played with him in 03 and 04, he didn't return kicks or punts then. He was just the offensive weapon. So I was really happy to see how he was able to get on with a couple teams in the NFL and be there for like 10 years. I think he had a 10-year career. Mm-hmm. So for him coming out of Seabreeze to go to Cookman, and even at Seabreeze, you may know Jeff, Eric, I think he had 10 picks.
Yeah, he was as a safety.
As a safety, yeah, mm-hmm. and he was like all-state basketball, I think. So he was an athlete.
Period.
But yeah, so those three guys, that's kind of my story with them. But I would say, 1 through 3, Rashean, you knew that when you saw him, the first minute you saw him, you're like, yeah, he's going to the league. There's no question about that.
So we have Eric. We have Eric on this season as well, and he talk about from day one walking in and just starting and making plays and the relationship, the connection that him and Alan Suba had. But what he talked about, and of course, the same thing that you mentioned, like he was a guy who would never miss practice. Like he was at the point where I played the last 2 years with him. He was the face of our team, and he could have easily took a vet day, is what we call it, and just hung out. He would never miss practice, and I just knew that was something special. But then he picked up special teams, and again, Coach Wyatt was reluctant about that because he didn't want to get him hurt.
He didn't want to hurt, right?
But that was really the opportunity that allowed him to be able to get to the NFL and then be able to really sustain. There was some other things he talked about on the episode, but I didn't see because he wasn't that fast. The first, I was a guy who was known for my speed, but he wasn't that fast. But going into his senior year, he worked hard on his speed, and that really gave him the real opportunity because this is about speed. You can be good, but if you don't have that, you don't have some type of speed, it's gonna be hard.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard. And I got one more Coach Wyatt story just came to my mind. And Jeff, let me know if this happened to you guys when you were there. So I would bet this doesn't happen in any other college, but so during two-a-days, right? Back during this time, I think the rules has changed, but we used to practice 2 a day every day. And I think when I was in college, maybe 2003, they changed it to 2-1-2. And I don't know what it is now. But back then it was like 2 a day. You had to be there. So during this time, maybe around 2002, 2003, people would get banged up. They would get hurt or whatever. And they would go to the training room. And you would, get like some stem or get some ice or get on the bike to keep mobility or whatever. And one of these years, I think I like tweaked my hamstring during 2 a days or whatever. And I'm getting treatment on it. And I'd never forget Coach Wyatt. The only time he dressed like a regular coach was during 2 a days. He had like shorts on, sneakers, and like a little like garbage bag top on or whatever. So he come in there, he kicks open the door, and I think the athletic trainer may have been Brad or something like that. He's like, Brad, I want you to get all this stuff out here, and I want you to put it out on the side of the field. We're not gonna have anybody in the training room. And he just walks out. So they pretty much take everything out of the training room, the exercise bikes, the machine stem stuff. They put all that on the side. And then he was like, he said, you either need to be on the bike or you need to walk around this practice field with 25-pound weights. So you would had to get a towel, put it through the 25-pound weight and put it around your neck and walk around the field for the whole practice, no matter what your injury was. If you couldn't walk, then you had to get on the bike. But if you had like a shoulder injury or just something, you had to put that around your back and walk. You had to do that every practice because he was like, you're either gonna do that or you're gonna be out here on this field playing. He didn't want anybody in the training room. And I'm like, we're hurt. We need to get better. But I think he did it because he didn't want people to be faking or putting on so they didn't have to play.
Old school mentality.
Man, yeah, but that was I've never heard of that anywhere else. 25-pound weights, man.
Damn. So seeing firsthand that the NFL is possible, did you have any aspiration to play the next level?
I did. I think during my my junior year, which was my best year, my receivers coach at the time had said that there was some scouts who were coming through, I guess, asking about me or whatever. The only names he gave me was I think the Eagles and the Steelers. And I still thought it was possible. But I think and because scouts already knew where Cookman was because of Rashean, and then they were already there, and I at least thought maybe Canadian football. I thought that could probably be an option, but I knew for me personally, I knew that it was going to be over for me, or that dream was just not in the cards for me. Is at the end of my junior year is when I made the decision, to pledge Kappa Alpha Psi at Cookman, and then when that happened, that pretty much, if you look at the workout schedule. I didn't have time to work out, and that was when the pro day was for the rising juniors. And so I was like, if I don't go to the pro day and at least try to get my name out there, then I'm not going to have an opportunity. But I made the conscious effort then. I was like, I'm going to focus on this extracurricular activity, and I'm just going to finish out my career at Cookman, just finishing as a senior. So I had that thought and that dream up until the end of my junior year season. And then after that, that's when, in my mind, I just made that split. I made that break, knowing that, my senior year is going to be my last year playing football. And to some extent, there was a little bit of a freedom that came with it when I was clear in my head. Because prior to that, from Little League on up, whenever I would have a bad practice or I'd drop a pass in practice, I didn't talk to nobody because I was mad. And you could tell what type of practice I had based on my mood, even in college. And so when I got to my senior year, that's probably the most fun I had, just playing the game of football, because I didn't have this tension or this pressure to try to make a play to try to get to the league, or I'm trying to get seen or to get noticed. I'm just like, what? I really took in the stadiums we went to, the rivalries we had, the games we were playing, the classic locations, and just taking a minute to take it all in and still, play as well as I could. So that was like a freeing decision for me. But but it was during that time where I knew that playing in the NFL wasn't in the cards for me.
And I'd like to probably say too, just kind of fraternity and being a part of the fraternity kind of puts you in a different perspective as well. Because I know for me, I didn't, I stayed away. I wasn't interested. For one, the Kappas was off the yard, but two, I was like, I'm a part of the biggest fraternity in terms of football, because it was just football. When I had the opportunity to join the fraternity, it changed everything now, because you got frat brothers at every school and all these different things. So it kind of, for me, it opened up just kind of seeing things a little different.
Yeah. I mean, that was the same here, because my first 2-3 years, I didn't have any inkling of going to join the fraternity. I was like, I'm in the biggest fraternity on campus. I was like, anything a fraternity can do or get, the football team can do or get. So I was like, where's the value? And then some things happen, one thing led to another, and it just kind of it opened my eyes when I got involved with it, and I was like, all right, so this is what it's about, So.
No doubt, I can relate to that. But as you mentioned, okay, you made that conscious decision going into your senior year. So with many athletes, they have trouble transitioning to life after the game. How was that process for you?
For me, I don't think it was as difficult for me. Again, I didn't play in the NFL, but I've seen people struggle with that transition, even from high school, even from college. Mm-hmm. For me, I always had in the back of my mind that I knew that there was going to be an end date with football. And it kind of goes back to my dad. My dad, he drilled in me. He always said, use the game of football. Don't let it use you. He told me that back when I was in middle school. So I took that as, I'm going to use football to get me a scholarship. That's a means to an end. And I'm going to use football to open up as many doors as possible. And then when I got to college, I was like, that door may not be NFL, but it could be something else. So the transition for me during college, I was, I'll say I was one of the few people who majored in business administration, right? And I was always focused on my classes. I was always like, I hung out with more people than just football players. I hung out with people from all different walks of life. And I think in my mind, I was always kind of thinking about, okay, I want to be, if I'm not going to go pro in NFL, I'm going to go pro in something else. So I had that thought in college. I was like, I'm going to go pro in something else. I'm not going to just be out here trying to survive. I'm like, I'm going to be the guy in some industry somewhere. So all those thoughts started in college and everything. So by the time I made that conscious decision, it was more so about, okay, what am I going to do next? Like, what's going to be that next thing? And by the time I graduated and got out of football and I finished my senior year, to me, the toughest transition was the psychology of it. Was the first three, I graduated in 05. From 05 to probably 08, I didn't watch football, period. Like, now looking back, I think I was probably just kind of burned out from it, because there was an element of, I didn't achieve the success that I thought my talent would allow me to achieve, because, you know, the constraints I had in high school and college, and seeing some of the players play in the NFL that I played against in high school or against in college, and I was better than or beat them, that just made me even more angry. I was like, man, so for 3 years, I didn't see any football, and I didn't miss it at all. So much so that my now wife, we started dating during that time, and we got married in 08. And I didn't really start watching football to the 08 season. And that it was a shock to her when I got back into it, and how I was like, really, the juices started flowing. She was like, I've never seen this, you know, this side of you, because she didn't see me play or anything like that. So that transition, the psychology part of it, was just for me to kind of let it go and just say, you know, that was a chapter in my life that I learned a lot of lessons from. I enjoyed it, but the football doesn't define me. And up to that point, I think it defined me, because I was like, you know, hey, I'm Patrick. I play wide receiver. Like, it was part of my introduction, so to speak. So that transition was more tough psychologically in the beginning, but over time, I've definitely learned to deal with it. And now it's just something I sit back and reflect on, and with a lot of happiness. So, you know, it was a good time.
Let's talk about your career in healthcare. Did you always aspire to work in the medical field?
I got in the medical field by divine intervention. So I graduate college, and I'm gonna try to be quick on this, because there's we can do another podcast on just how I got in healthcare. But when I was in college and I was majoring in business and I was making business connections, I connected with the vice president of human resources for all of UPS in the globe, or the world. And I was part of this exchange program called the Black Executive Exchange Program. We called it BEAT on campus. So we had executives come from all across the country, and I would be one of the hosts. I would have to dress up in a suit. I would take them to lunch, dinner, and I would show them to their classes where they gave information to the students. And we just talked about corporate America and all that. So in those interactions, I got the information from the VP of HR, and I told him, like, you know, I would be interested in working with UPS when I graduate. So he just makes a phone call to the Daytona branch, and he calls me. He's like, hey, go down to Daytona branch off of Fentress, and he's like, fill out the application and you got a spot. So I go down there, fill out the application, and I played the Florida Classic 2004 on a Friday or Saturday. That next Monday at 6 p.m., I walk into my first day at UPS. So as soon as I made that break, I was like, all right, I'm done. We're moving forward. So I get there. I work at UPS for about I work at the night. They call it the night shift. I work the night shift for 3 months, and then I get promoted to operations supervisor. So I'm still in college, but they want me to be the operations supervisor over the preload shift, which is the early AM shift. It starts at like 2:30, 3 a.m. and it runs to like 9 a.m. I still have 8 o'clock, 7 o'clock class, or 8 o'clock classes, 9 a.m. classes. So for my last 3 months, I would go in. I had a crew of probably 25 people. I was by far the youngest by far. I was like running, like they were unload the 18 wheelers, the 18 wheelers trucks, unload those on the belts going all over the place. I had to keep the flow going and all that. And so I would work there for from 2:30 to 7:30, get in the car, drive to my 8 o'clock class. I had like my UPS stuff. I was grungy, dirty, but I was like, I didn't care. I didn't care about wearing anything nice. I was like, I'm graduating. I'm on a mission. Like, I'm out of here. Mm-hmm. And so long story short, I thought it was going to be with UPS like forever. And one day I had I don't want to say a vision, but I just had this feeling one day when I was walking, doing my rounds around the building. I was like, man, I know I want to contribute more to society than just moving around boxes. I was like, I know there's some more out there that I can do. So long story short, I'm from Warner Robins, and I was thinking about, so at Warner Robins, there's an Air Force base there, a big civilian Air Force base. It employs a lot of civilians. And there's this thought that if you get on the Air Force base, they used to call it Sugar Hill, Candy Hill, because it was like you get on base, you could work there for like 20, 30 years and make good money. You're straight. So I was like, I'm gonna go back to Warner Robins and work on the base. So my mom has my resume at the hospital because she's an employee health nurse, and VP of HR walks in who remembered me from high school. And she's like, how's Patrick doing? And my mom was like, well, he's probably going to be moving back to Warner Robins. And he's in Florida now. And so yeah, he's probably going to try to get on base. So she was like, would he be interested in working at the hospital? Because we just had an HR generalist quit 2 days ago, and we have an opening. So my mom called me. She's like, you want to work at the hospital in HR? At this time, I'm 22. I'm like, I just need a check. I was like, yes. I was like, keep in mind, I did not want to go back to Georgia. Like, when I was growing, and I didn't go through all this, but when I was growing up and I left Georgia, I was like, I'm not going back to Georgia, small town, middle Georgia. Like, I'm done with that. So for me to say yes to that, I basically swallowed my pride and was like, whatever it takes to get on my own 2 feet and to get this thing going, that's what I'm going to do. So, I go in there, I interview, they offer me the job on the spot. And then I moved back to Georgia, and I'm working in HR. And then from there, my progression has been, I guess, kind of fast. I started in HR. Then I went to became a director at the age of 23. I was the youngest director ever in my hospital history, and the first Black male in my hospital to become a director. And then I was there in my hometown hospital for like 5 years, or no, a little less than 5, like 4 years. Then I got recruited to Dallas here the first time in 2012. And then I was here for a year, moved to Houston for 2 years, moved to Phoenix for 3 years. And I've been back in DFW since for 3.5 years, since 2018. And each move, I've had more responsibility. So I basically started from the HR frontline person all the way to now I'm the chief operating officer. And now I just report to the CEO of the hospital here. And I've had a lot of other responsibilities in between that. And routinely, I walk into meetings. I'm the youngest and like the only African-American male, typically, no matter where I've been at. It's kind of par for the course.
And probably the only high-level college player, probably too, in some aspects, to be able to be in that role. I mean, you don't see former athletes walking in healthcare and just kind of, working in healthcare and not many make it to vice president, as you mentioned. Talk about just a segment of the healthcare system that that you have had so much success in, and what are your main responsibilities in your current role?
Yeah, so my experience up to this point, 15 years, has been like in your traditional hospital setting, and of different sizes and complexity. So it's timely now thinking of COVID. So if you've been in the hospital anytime recently, you got doctors, you got patients, you got towers, you got rooms, you got equipment, you got food, you got dietary, EVS. It's almost like a mini city. So the part that I play is I pretty much handle everything in my current role, everything that's non-nursing. So if you look at if you think of radiology, pharmacy, respiratory, food, plant ops, contracts, all the hospitalist physicians. Hospitalists are physicians who make rounds on patients on the inpatient setting. They don't have clinic anywhere. I deal, most of my day is dealing with employees, dealing with physicians, surgeons. I have service lines that report to me in my current role. I'm over the cardiology service line, over urology, vascular surgery, orthopedics. And pretty much when the CEO is out or off campus or not there, I'm the person that's in charge. So what's interesting for me, and it's funny, I'm in these meetings and I have people who are, they went to medical school, they did a fellowship, they did a residency, they've done 2 fellowships, and they know medicine. Like, I don't know medicine, they know medicine. But when we're talking, it's almost like we're equals, because I don't know medicine, but I know business. They don't know business, and I don't know medicine. So there's almost like a leveling of the playing field. And then particularly with hospitals, that's how most physicians not necessarily make their money, but physicians need a hospital like support for their patients. Mm-hmm. So I'm always there to kind of navigate the benefit of the hospital for them, the benefit of the hospital for their patients. And then you look at, you know, what we're going through, the cost of healthcare for everyone. I'm always in those discussions. I have a huge responsibility for the community, so I'm on a lot of community boards. I'm on the board of an ambulatory surgery center that we have that's separate from our hospital. That's like a joint venture with physicians. So my day, looking back, everything that I learned at Cookman in college, and then I got my master's degree and then my MBA, and then my work experience has led me up to this point to where, you know, the next role for me is going to be to be the CEO of my own institution or hospital. And I've had other roles previous to my current role where I've been over multiple hospitals. Like when I was in Arizona, I was the chief strategy officer for 2 hospitals in Phoenix. And what that means is when I take a step back and look at the business of healthcare, my job every day was to look in to see how can we grow the service lines of the hospital? How can we add more physicians to the community? What new procedures or services can we offer that we're not offering now? How much is it going to cost to bring it online? What bodies do we need to bring? What physicians do we need to recruit? I would go and recruit those physicians and bring them in. And then just doing that, you know, I ran into different people from different walks of life, backgrounds, and I realized that, you know, everyone has a story on how they get to where they are. Mm-hmm. And it's just crazy being in those meetings where, you know, I'm talking to someone, like I said, who went to medical school at Harvard, and they did their fellowship at Jackson in Miami, Jackson Health. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times they're like looking at me for advice. They're like, you know, Patrick, what should I do here? And I'm like, I should be asking you what I need to do. And so sometimes I have those out of body experiences. I'm like, how did I get here? And it's still the weirdest thing. I wouldn't say it's imposter syndrome. Maybe I had a little bit of that in the beginning, but now it's just like, you know, at my core and at my heart, I still feel like the kid from Warner Robins, Georgia, who's just wanting to go out and catch passes. Right. But yeah, it's really been a blessing. To say that I planned it this way, well, I'll be lying. So I really think there's a lot of divine intervention in where I'm at today.
This is what truly just lit me in terms of having the opportunity to bring you on and talk about this, because this is not something that happens every day, or you get the opportunity to talk about the path that someone takes. Even when you talk about, you know, HBCU experience. Now we have a lot of medical doctors and stuff come through HBCU, whether it be Howard or Harry and all those different institutions that are great. But to be able to run an institution, was there any interest for you in medical at all? Like, were you a medical magnet? Did you like any interest at all in medical field at all?
Zero, none. I mean, to you know, keep it honest, you know, my mom was in healthcare. Yeah. I really thought all hospitals was physicians or doctors and patients in a building. That's it. I didn't realize what was possible until I took the HR position. That's when I realized that there was a business behind it. Well, and I'll tell this quick story. So when I was in HR, I was recruiting nurses and ancillary clinical staff across the state of Georgia. So I would always go to different career fairs at different colleges. I was just driving around and just saying, hey, you know, come work with us, because there was a nursing shortage at the time. And I remember the administrator who was over our hospital, I saw that he had signed a contract or something, and I saw he had MBA after his name. And I was like, so he's not a doctor? I was like, how can you be just an MBA running all of this? So I like researched him. I had a conversation with him, and that's what started opening my eyes and my mind to say, well, you don't need to be a doctor to run a health system. So then I just got on the computer. I was Googling. I was like, you know, healthcare administrative biographies. So I just started researching like everything about healthcare. I just researched it on my own. No one like came in my ear and said, Patrick, you need to do this. I was like, well, let me find out what's going on. And the more I was digging, the more I was looking at, you know, chief operating officers, chief financial officers, CEOs, chief medical officers, vice presidents of whatever. The more I was looking at it, I didn't see any of us. And so I was like, and it really felt like a secret. I was like, who's keeping this secret from us? I remember thinking about that. I was thinking about my friends, people in high school and college. I was like, I don't know anybody whose like dad or cousin or whatever was running a hospital. It's like, how do you do that? Like, did they really keep this from us? So the more I was like searching, I could probably count on one hand the number of Black executives at that time, this is like in the mid 2000s, that were like CEOs or just C-suite, let alone CEOs, C-suite in general. It wasn't many of them. There's more now. I think we're starting to break through. But at that time, I was like, what is this? I was like, there's a reason to try to keep us out. So I kept on researching, and I was like, that's what I'm gonna do right there. I'm going right there. So that's kind of what triggered me to get on my path.
No, that's amazing, man. And as I mentioned, just highlighting just that aspect, because I'll say this real quickly too. When I got the opportunity to go to the NFL level, it opened my eyes to more than just coaching, trainer, or player, right? There was everything from, if you want to do, if you're a graphic designer, if you are in analytics and you understand that, if you are a nutritionist, it was a video, it's so many different aspects. And I said, well, I want to, let kids know that you just don't have to be the quarterback or the coach to have a successful career in the NFL. There's business on the NFL. There's presidents of NFL teams that handle solely the business side of it. So to me, that opened up my eyes that it was more than just having to play the game or coach the game. So I can so I can relate to you when you talk about getting into the hospital and realizing that there are so many different dynamics. Right.
And I think that's part of our, I guess, charge or burden that we need to share with those that are coming up behind us, is that most people don't really, who come from like your background or my background, they don't know that exists, particularly for African-American males. We all probably thought at one time or another, we got to be ballers or entertainers to some extent. And the more I started looking at, how people make a living, not being in the medical, not being like a doctor, and sometimes they make more than the doctor. I was like, whoa, what is this? So it just kind of fights against what we were either told or what we thought we knew growing up. And I think that's something that we have to communicate to those following behind us. And that's part of what I do now. I'm like a mentor within the healthcare executive space to anyone from any walk of life, but particularly for African-American males and females, just to say, hey, here is really what's out there. If you want to be in the medical field, you don't have to always be a clinician. You can be a sales, you can be a vendor. You could work in business development. You could work in strategy. You could work in finance, and you could still make a good living for you and your family. So that's something I take personally.
So what advice do you have for athletes who might consider working in healthcare on what it takes to be successful?
I think my advice would be to research as much as you can about healthcare and really any industry. That's something that I did. I was relentless in my research. I asked questions of executives or people within that space, just try to get an idea of what is really in the space, what it takes to be successful. And once you find that out, you will start to get an idea on if that's something that resonates with, your core passion or your core being. And then I think once you get that, you got to get your foot in the door somehow. You got to get a position somewhere and get that work experience going. Once that happens, the biggest thing for me that I've seen, and that I still do to this day, is networking. Like in any industry, relationships are key. Like they're paramount. And I think every opportunity that I've had in my career, I still have connections. I can probably pick up my phone and call somebody that I worked with when I was in HR now. When I was in Phoenix, I can pick up the call on my phone right now and have a call with someone that I worked with. So I'm always been keen on networking with people and keeping those connections. Because some people, when they network, they only network when they need something. You really need to network the most when you don't need anything. When life is good, you got the job you want, or you're in the space that you want to be in, that's when you really need to network the most. Because at some point, whether you need a job or you need a business favor, you want to run an idea by somebody, it's easier when you have a team that you can call and say, hey, I got this idea I want to float by you, or can you help me out with, XYZ. So networking and relationship building is really key. And you'd be surprised at how many people really don't know how to do it or are comfortable doing it. But that is paramount. I mean, when I was at Cookman, they used to tell us, you network or you die.
I mean, unbelievable. In a nutshell, just that conversation or that statement that you made in regards to networking and seeing beyond, just what's in front of you is what a lot of times I will say to the younger guys when they came into the NFL, because yeah, you know, you're told to kind of have your total focus only on the game, right? But guess what? That you know, there's a day that your expiration date for you and your playing days. When do you and how do you make that adjustment? So when you're able to be in the building, right, because you have the opportunity, see what other, you know, departments and who's running what, and make relationships. Because, and even with the endorsement deals, a lot of guys I will see go, you know, doing, you know, autograph signings, right? They'll get a check, right? Most guys will show up and get a check and leave. But you're going to these Fortune 500 companies, find out who the VP is or who's over, you know, the marketing, and just start building a relationship. So when your time is up, you know, you have relationships with these individuals that can help you with that adjustment and help you kind of make that transition. And then, you know, like you said, you figure out where your passion lies. But one thing I also know about athletes, you know, we have that ability to adjust, right? Like we have that ability. And a lot of athletes, once they figure it out, the light goes on. It's nothing else like it.
Right. Like I think everything you said is key. I really think athletes are built for. I keep using the term corporate America in any space, whether it's healthcare or whatever, because I mean, there's an element of endurance, there's an element of resilience, perseverance, and there's an element of grit. And I think, you know, if you approach your passion, your career, your business venture with the same focus and intensity that you had on the field or on the court or on the diamond, that's really what makes careers and success happen within that workspace. And I think everything you said is transferable. So like my mindset that I had when I came into healthcare, that was the mindset that I had when I was playing football. Like, you know, I always researched too to see who the best was. And I used to research to see like how did like Jerry Rice train, what did Randy Moss do. I used to catch bricks in the backyard because I read that Jerry Rice did it. So I'm like, I'm catching bricks in the summertime, I'm catching everything. So I mean, it's that same mentality if you take with you to whatever space you're in. That's how you be successful.
Absolutely. Well, Patrick, we've had you for some time, and we really appreciate all the gems that you share with us. I think this is going to be so valuable, even if it's just one young guy that's able to hear this, and this is something to catapult his career. And now he's interested in being a CEO of a hospital one day, or, you know, something that in itself, I believe the job is done. So I appreciate you for coming on. I appreciate you for sharing again your journey. Dre, do you have anything else for him?
Man, like I said, thank you for giving it to us, man. This is great, bro. Like you really just inspired me to kind of get to do something now. I'm trying to figure out what I want to do now. Because football is my life. Football is everything I've ever done. So now I'm trying to figure out what's good for Dre now. I'm trying to figure out what I can do now. So like you really just inspired me a lot just now, man. Appreciate it, man.
No, that's no problem, man. Like I said, I thank you guys for having me on. I really appreciate and like what you guys are doing with the content and the show. And, you know, I just count it a blessing to be able to kind of share my story, and hopefully I can inspire someone to kind of be a better version of themselves, or to kind of walk in their purpose. So I think that's all of our responsibility. So I appreciate it.
Definitely.
Absolutely. No question. Again, Patrick, we thank you for again joining us on our episode, and we look forward to all the success, man, that you have in the near future. And even I'll say this as we wrap, you know, playing days as Dre retired. How old were you when you retired, Dre?
I'm 29 now. I think I was 27.
You have more life after you retire in terms of sports to do. So you being able to get into this, and you've been in it 15 years, and you still got so much more ahead of you, you know, just understanding that your life after sports is so much longer than, you know, even if you make it to the NFL, your career in the NFL. So, man, we're excited. I'm just pleased to be able to see, you know, where your career is going, man. And we're going to be supporting you along the way, man. So I appreciate you coming on, man. And we wish you the best.
Definitely. Same here, guys. I appreciate it.
Definitely.